take us back to the beginning of the Brexit movement, not today, but where it got started.
Okay. In 1870, the Germans...
By the way, I love when I say take us back. We go to 1870.
That's almost modern.
Remember. We're talking about a pretty old country over here. It's not like America, you know.
1870.
Look, in the United States, when we say take us back, it's to 7:30 a.m. So that,
1870, the Germans invade across the Rhine. 1914, the Germans invade across the Rhine. 1940, the Germans invade across
Seeing a pattern
the Rhine.
here. Hold on.
Now, there is a very bad joke I'm going to tell you. I asked a restaurateur in Strasbourg once, I said, "You get many Germans there?" Oh, he said, they pop by once every 25 years or so. But here's the point.
It's hard to park the tanks.
Yeah, absolutely. But here's the point. This endless battle over territory between France and Germany led to 2 world wars, led to hundreds of millions of deaths. Yeah. And the thinking post-war was we need to get the French and Germans together round the table to break bread. And the truth of it is, the more business, the more trade we do with each other, the less likely we are to hate each other and fight each other. So the original concept that we have a Europe that comes together was absolutely right. Unfortunately, those innocent beginnings turned into the attempt to build a new state.
Right, to build, and they wanted their own military.
And they now want their own army, they want their own air force, and all the rest of it. And so what they've done is, the ancient nations of Europe are now being consumed, having their identities taken away, their democracies taken away. And Mrs. Thatcher, who initially had gone along with the European project, believing that it was about trade.
She was your version of Ronald Reagan. Same time.
Absolutely. And, listen, when Margaret took over the United Kingdom, we were a socialist country.
Yeah.
We had top-rate income tax of 83%. It's almost hard to believe the state we got into.
Well, and as she explained then, the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money.
Absolutely.
Which is a message, by the way, Bernie Sanders and some American politicians could do to learn.
Oh, I love Bernie Sanders.
I love Bernie Sanders. Why do you love Bernie?
I want to give some money to his campaign. Listen, if Bernie is the nominee, then you guys are just going to walk it in November.
57 states. We're going to win.
I hope
Greenland.
So.
Yeah.
But I will say, God help us if he wins in November.
Yeah, but the truth is, and we're seeing this across the whole of the Western world, that the left parties are going further left.
Yep.
Right.
They delight their own echo chamber.
Right.
But actually, the middle of our countries looks at this stuff and says, do you know what? We're not having this. So I think Bernie would be very, very
Well, this brings up an interesting point. I want to get to something where I think you agree on most of it, but I think you disagree a little bit on some of the particulars. And that is moving past Brexit to the Huawei controversy.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just finish off.
Okay.
In 1988, Margaret Thatcher sussed what the European project was. She sussed it.
Yeah.
All right. Because the European community was about to change its name to the European Union. And Margaret sussed it. She blew the whistle and they got rid of her because of it. Because all the big business, all the big banks, and all the big money wanted it to go in that direction. And ever since she was gone, the Conservative Party in Britain ceased to be conservative. Ceased to be conservative.
And literally gave away your sovereignty. It's a word you used earlier that I think goes really to the heart of what this is about, which is who's in charge. And the most fundamental notion, the American Constitution begins with the words, we the people.
Yep.
Because sovereignty belongs to the people. And look, as I look at the EU, the sense I make of Brexit is the British people should decide the laws for Britain, and not the damn French, and not the Germans, and not anybody else. And that's basic sovereignty. That's who's in charge.
Not some anonymous bureaucrat. And of course, what we haven't even mentioned is we lost control of our borders as well. So in the early 90s, I helped to start a rebellion.
Yeah.
And the rebellion was against the entire British establishment. It was against the Labour Party. It was against big business. Yeah. But it was against the Conservative Party.
And how far out was it at the time? Like when you started it, how much of a, with all due respect, of a loon did they think you were?
Oh, people used to say, I don't know what you're smoking, Nigel, but I'd like some of it.
Because it's been a long battle,
we were
decades
considered
long.
crazy. I campaigned all through the 1990s, and I think at many times during that period, beginning to look a bit like the patron saint of lost causes. But I first got elected to the EU chamber in 1999, so nearly 21 years I was there until January the 31st, and we just slowly but surely developed momentum. And in the end, in 2014, in the European elections, I led UKIP. We won the election.
UKIP's the UK Independence Party.
Right. It was the first time since 1906 that a party had won a national election that wasn't Labour or Conservative. It was a shockwave. And David Cameron was the Prime Minister. And he could see that I was destroying his Conservative Party. I mean, in the country.
Because he wasn't that conservative.
On anything.
You're right.
So in the end, in an effort to save himself and to save the Conservative Party, he said, "We'll give you a referendum." That's how it came to be. As I say, we had the referendum. We won the referendum. I thought it was all done and dusted. I thought, great, fabulous. I can get on with the rest of my life. We then got betrayed again.
Because they didn't give you the Brexit that the people voted for.
They just didn't want to deliver it. They didn't want to deliver it. And so then we had to refight the battle again in 2019, which I did. I set up the Brexit Party. And within 6 weeks of founding it, I won the European elections. And the Conservative Party got less than 10% of the vote, their worst result in 200 years. And the very next morning, before the results were out, Theresa May resigned as Prime Minister. So I can say with some, sort of quite a boast, I suppose, that I have got rid of 2 British Prime Ministers. And now we've got Boris.
And the EU.
And now we've got Boris. And, at the moment, he's keeping all his promises. At the moment, the negotiating position is right. So that's good. I couldn't be happier with that.